Trans-American Sedan Racing, a battle of the Detroit Giants for road racing supremacy, where winning demands the perfect combination of car, driver, and teamwork.
Well, I think the main part of success in Trans Am racing is the whole package of the team management, the driver, and the automobile.
To be a winner in any type of racing, you have to have the full combination. I think you have to give it the best driver effort at all times.
Teamwork is really the name of the game.
This is a closed practice session of the American Motors Trans-American Racing Team. The man in charge is Mark Donohue, a graduate engineer responsible for preparing the factory Javelin team for the coming race. Donohue is also one of 2 Javelin team drivers. At the wheel is his teammate, Peter Revson.
Well, it all boils down to preparation. If your car is prepared well enough, you should finish, whether you win or not.
The first official practice at Watkins Glen is still 3 days away. The Javelin team is here because of the planning of one man, the boss of American Motors Trans Am effort, Roger Penske.
In operation, we never bring the same race car back to the track. We try to bring a race car back that's better. We come here and rent the track. This gives the crew a chance to check the car to be sure the suspension and the rears and everything are right after you've had them apart. That's number 1. Number 2, it allows the drivers to practice under a non-race conditions a little more relaxed.
Penske's record as an organizer, planner, and strategist speaks for itself. In 1968 and 69, when he headed the Chevrolet Camaro team, it won 18 out of a possible 25 Trans Am races.
And our strategy really this week was to get up here on Tuesday and let Peter run most of the time to try to get him confident in the car and get the car right for him.
He's also an innovator, constantly seeking new ways to give his team a competitive edge. For example, driver Peter Revson can evaluate his car's performance more accurately by recording it on tape as he drives.
Up the hill. Feels good to get some fresh air. Just barely hit 7,500. On the brakes. Let's see if I can come out of here 7,200. $7,100. Not so good. Down the flat straight. Motor seems to be a little lazy. It isn't revving up as fast. A brake for the pen at the end of the front.
The key thing is organization. Really hard-working guys is where we win the races.
35 cars start each Trans Am race, but competition comes mainly from 5 teams backed in some way by manufacturers: Javelin, Barracuda, Mustang, Challenger, and Camaro. The rules require Trans Am cars to be production models, with engines limited to 305 cubic inches. So these Camaros, like all other cars in competition, began their lives rolling off a Detroit assembly line. But 1,001 intricate changes are needed before a showroom cream puff can take to the track. Leading the unofficial Camaro factory team is the creator of the Chaparral, Jim Hall, world-famous driver, designer, and builder of road racing machines. Hall set up the Camaro for Trans Am racing.
Well, you mostly try to simplify it so that it's easy to maintain. It's a pretty rough schedule. You run a race every 2 weeks, basically, and you got to keep them running from race to race so that you leave out all the unnecessary stuff as far as a race car is concerned. You make it clean and neat and easy to work on. It looks like it takes about 1,000 man-hours into the car. You're not going to do it for less than $20,000, I'd say. The engines are pretty much unlimited except for the size limitation, so that we pull quite a bit more power than the street cars. It's got much larger tires, and of course the ducts and the spoilers are critical to the handling of the car. It's a pretty easy car for a race driver to drive.
Cars set up by Jim Hall have been winning major road races since 1964. But in the current Trans Am series, his Camaros are winless. Hall decides to take himself out of the driver's seat of the #1 Camaro and put in Englishman Vic Elford. Elford, a veteran of European endurance racing, is new to Trans Am competition.
You know, there are quite a number of leading cars and drivers at the front of the pack who are very closely matched indeed.
First place money for each of the 11 races on the Trans Am schedule is $3,500. Hardly enough to lure Vic Elford across the Atlantic or generate such intense competition. The lush contracts offered by the factory teams are what really puts the top talent on the track. Like one of the all-time greats, Parnelli Jones. Jones drives for the Mustang factory team. At 36, the 1963 Indianapolis 500 winner remains as fiercely competitive as ever, a driver's driver. On the track, PJ cares about nothing except going faster than everyone else. And more often than not, in this Trans Am series, his number 15 Mustang is on the pole come race day.
I think that I drive the best when I am the calmest, and when I, you know, are somewhat more relaxed. It requires concentration. You should be concentrating all through the race, every lap. I know I've felt that at times I wasn't concentrating enough, and you start making a few mistakes. It really requires that solid concentration to keep control of the car at all times and get the most out of it. And that is running the car at all times on the verge of losing control of it. When you negotiate a particular turn, you want to be able to go through that turn a little bit quicker. Because most cars do run down the straightaway quite the same, you want to be able to build up a mile-an-hour speed through the turn so that you can carry it down the following straightaway so that maybe you can pass the other fellow.
When qualifying time trials begin, so does Parnelli. Joined by Mustang teammate George Follmer, a California insurance broker turned racer, PJ throws his ageless skill into a running battle for the pole. The strongest challenge to Parnelli's domination of the track comes from Mark Donohue's number 6 Javelin. But Swede Savage's factory-backed Barracuda and another Chrysler entry, Sam Posey's Dodge Challenger, also make determined bids. The scramble for the pole isn't a game for the faint-hearted. The drivers are running their cars flat out, as hard as they can, and the score is kept in hundreds of seconds. Without the heavy financial support of the factories, all of the more than 24 independent entries filling out the field must be considered long shots to win, or even to start at the front of the grid. They simply can't afford what's needed to win consistently. The driving excellence of a Parnelli Jones, or the organizational ability of a Roger Penske, or the engineering know-how of a Jim Hall. When time trials end, the factory teams hold the first 8 starting positions. Jones is again on the pole. Right beside him, only 0.3 of a second slower, is Mark Donohue. In fact, less than a second separates the first 6 cars on the grid. The Trans Am series, road racing Detroit style, is intensely competitive simply because the manufacturers spend fortunes to make it so. Yet the winner's purse of $3,500 won't even cover the cost of running one car in a single race. Chris Economaki, editor of National Speed Sport News, sums it up.
A car, magnificently prepared. An engine that's all-powerful. A driver from the cream of the crop, coupled with a pit crew that works with military precision, gives Trans Am sedan racing an appeal second to none as a spectator sport. But is it a sport to the Detroit moguls who finance the factory teams? After all, the factories didn't come here to run second. So what then is really at stake? Is it the $20,000 in prize money? Only the independents know about that. What they're really racing for here is the World Championship of Detroit.
The predicted August thunderstorm seems only minutes away as the 35 cars in the starting field roll through the pace lap. Based on a complicated scoring system which awards points for finishing 1st through 6th, Mustang leads in the standings. In fact, a victory locks up the championship for Ford. To keep its hopes alive, the Javelin team must outpoint Mustang here, the most important race to date in the series. Parnelli Jones stands on it right from the start, sprinting away from the field with Mark Donohue directly behind him. Parnelli usually turns his fastest laps during the early going, spurred on by an empty track in front of him and Mark Donohue in his mirror. Swede Savage, in the number 42 Barracuda, slips by Vic Elford's Camaro and takes over third position. Elford's lack of experience in Trans Am competition could be the reason. Or perhaps his Camaro just isn't running the way Jim Hall expects. With the first lap complete, it's Mustang, Javelin, Barracuda, and Camaro in the first 4 positions. The leaders stretch it out, putting more and more daylight between themselves and the rest of the pack. And Jones and Donohue go at it like every lap is the last one of the race. Parnelli attacks the course ferociously, turning a lap in 1 minute, 14.65 seconds, averaging almost 111 miles per hour. But Donohue stubbornly hangs on. The factory entries quickly catch the tail end of the field. With the track ahead of him looking like a parking lot, Parnelli doesn't even think about shutting down. It's in this heavy traffic that PJ's years of experience and uncanny driving skills pay off. A few seconds behind the leaders, Elford's Camaro is passed again, this time by Peter Revson's number 9 Javelin, now running 4th. The Camaros, plagued with bad luck throughout the series, seem to be in deep trouble again. Elford's teammate, Ed Leslie, limps around the course with a blown tire, all but eliminating himself from contention. Parnelli's tires, damaged by one of his off-course shortcuts, begin smoking badly, but he's past the pit entrance and must go around again. Several of the slower cars unlap themselves by passing the crippled Mustang. A gentle drizzle begins to fall, just enough to bring the oil out of the track. Parnelli gets out of shape on the fast bend and falls even farther behind Donohue, who is already in the pits. Donohue's Javelin is already refueled and taking on rain tires when Parnelli nurses his car into the pits. The Mustang crew works feverishly. But Donohue beats Jones out of the pits with room to spare. The other factory entries make their stops. While the scramble into the pits continues, Parnelli loses even more time by spinning on the rain-slicked pit straight. Mark Donohue now leads, followed by George Follmer, who has come all the way from 7th position. With the first of 2 mandatory pit stops behind them, the cars plow around the slippery track toward their second stop, a factor which could decide the outcome of the race. The Watkins Glen Trans Am continues as Donohue builds his lead second by second through the rain, driving carefully and consistently. But the real action is happening behind him. Peter Revson's number 9 Javelin whips by George Follmer. The Javelins are now running 1-2. Coupled with their customary edge in the pits, that makes the prospects of the American Motors team very rosy indeed. Swede Savage's Barracuda and Vic Elford's Camaro are running 4th and 5th. The rain slackens, and Elford chooses this moment to turn it on. He slips by Savage to take 4th place. The Camaro appears to be running smoothly now, its earlier difficulties behind it. And Elford seems to be finally accustomed to the pace and the style of the race. He pours it on, passing Follmer to take 3rd position. Then Elford breaks up the 1-2 Javelin combination by passing Revson to move into second. Elford's charge is a classic. He picks up 4 positions in as many laps. Not an easy accomplishment on a soggy track. Behind Elford, Savage and Follmer are running 4th and 5th. Under the watchful eye of Roger Penske, Donohue has built what appears to be a comfortable 29-second lead. Swede Savage knocks himself out of contention when he pits for repairs. George Follmer stages a comeback of sorts, passing Revson to take 3rd position. Donohue comes into the pits on his 2nd and last stop to shed his rain tires and take on fuel. The normally lightning-quick Penske Javelin crew appears confused and disorganized. The course is only one important left-hand turn, so dropping just the outside rain tires would save time in the pit and not affect the handling of the car. But the Javelin's rain tires are bigger than its dry tires, so all 4 must be changed to run on a dry track. In the frantic scramble to change the tires, the seconds and Donohue's lead slip away. Vic Elford's Camaro takes the lead with Donohue still in the pits. To the agonized Javelin crew, the stop seems to drag on endlessly. Donohue finally gets out and almost tangles with Parnelli Jones, now running a distant 6th, a full lap behind the leader. Even that far back, Parnelli won't accept being passed if he can avoid it. The number 1 Camaro stays on the track while the other factory entries come into the pits. Elford is trying to build his 30-second lead as much as he can before pitting. Penske is greatly concerned. Follmer holds 2nd position with Donohue right behind him. If the race ends this way, Javelin is eliminated from this year's championship. Elford hangs on to his lead as Hall plans strategy for his last pit stop. The Camaro's rain tires are exactly the same size as its dry tires. The crew ignores the inside tires and changes only the rubber on the outside. Elford is going to try to win running half wet and half dry. The stop is a quick one. Elford gets out with a lead of 15 seconds over 2nd place Follmer. Bud Moore, boss of the Mustang team, is worried. Follmer and Donohue roar down the pit straight, almost even. Elford in 1st continues to run smoothly and seems ready to lap 5th place Peter Revson. Then it happens. Donohue passes Follmer to take 2nd. And is almost immediately repassed. Less than a car length separates the Mustang and the Javelin as they charge around the track, grinding away at Elford's lead. But there isn't enough time left to catch Elford. Barring a mechanical failure, or a spin, or an accident, or a blowout, or any one of a dozen things that have already happened to the Camaros in the current series of races, Elford should come home a winner. It's Follmer and Donohue following, still running as close together as 2 cars can run. For Ford, the Trans Am Championship rides on every turn of the track. It's the last chance for Javelin. And Donohue makes good. On the last lap of the race, he passes the faltering Follmer to take 2nd. Elford has it won and takes the checker. Seconds back, Donohue hangs on as Mustang and Javelin go into the last turn together. It's Donohue's Javelin by 1 car length in 2nd. Follmer is 3rd. No one will be second-guessing Jim Hall this time. His Camaro, except for some early trouble, ran flawlessly, just the way he planned. And his choice as driver, Vic Elford, wins his first Trans Am race on only his 2nd try at it. Hall's crew came through when it counted, changing only the outside rain tires in less than 15 seconds to preserve Elford's lead. In this race, Jim Hall's Camaro team put it all together. The ultimate combination of driver, car, and crew needed to win in trans-American competition. Chris Economaki is in victory lane with Parnelli Jones and Vic Elford.
And here's Parnelli Jones, the early leader, and the man who set the fastest lap and picked up the Ballantine $1,000 award. Congratulations, Parnelli, but you did have a tough day, didn't you?
Yeah, I really did. Leslie lost a tire or something, and he slowed down. I went around the outside of him, and I guess my tire was pretty thin at that point. When I did, I blew it out. And I really didn't, I couldn't just, I just didn't have enough time to get in the pits there, and I had to run another lap on it, and of course it come apart, and then right after that I put the rain tires on, and I spun a couple of times, so I just...
One of those days, huh?
Yeah, right.
Nothing like a cold beer after a victory, eh, Vic?
No, beautiful.
Was it a difficult race for you?
Not really, no. It wasn't much of a race, actually, for me, because I got left behind a bit at the start, and then suddenly after the shower I found myself in front, and you know, it wasn't too bad from there on. It was a bit slippery, but there was nobody ever at any time really sort of running with me. Either I was behind them or they were behind me.
Were you called into the pits for the tire change, or did you come in voluntarily?
I was called in. We, you know, one more lap and I'd have come in if they didn't tell me, but in fact we were called in.
What was it like when it was raining on the dry tires?
A bit slippery.
Just a bit slippery. We saw a lot of cars doing dipsies and didos. Did you have any trouble?
No, I didn't have any trouble at all on the dry tires. In fact, when they put the wet tires on, they were new, and I went off the road twice on the first 2 laps with those, but with the dries, not at all.
Well, it ended well for you, and congratulations, Vic Elford.
Thanks very much, Chris.
By others, a new art form. Whichever, the single most important ingredient is pride, never giving up. This is a record of one season of championship motor racing. One proud campaign in the sun. The 1970 Trans Am Championship will be decided here in Kent, Washington on this September 20th, the 10th violent Sunday in a long, long summer. Driver George Follmer of the Mustang team minutes before the race.
We're definitely going down to the wire now. The outcome of the race here at Kent could decide the championship. So it's been a real tight, close series all the way through. We have good competition from the American Motors team. So it's a tremendous series with the cars very, very close and very, very competitive.
Coming around at the end of the first lap, the Javelin is closing in on Jones. It's Jones. Donohue is challenging. Jones reading the lead out of the backside of the course. Down into the far turn, the 2-liter car side by side. Donohue has the lead back again.
What was to be the most exciting season of Trans Am racing yet began 5 months earlier on April 19th in California at Laguna Seca. Veteran crew chief Bud Moore, whose Mustang team was runner-up to the Camaros last year, looks ahead to the 70 season.
Well, I think that this year, with more people enjoying seeing the Trans Am racing on all the road courses, and another thing with all the different manufacturers involved, such as Ford, Chrysler, American Motors, and even Chevrolet and all into the game here when you got 3 or 4 factory teams running against one another. And so you're going to have a lot of good name drivers driving these cars. So
Some of the top names in the racing world are here to put their reputations on the line. Parnelli Jones and George Follmer, tough, experienced Mustang pilots. Mark Donohue, Trans Am champion last year in a Camaro, and Roger Penske, team captain, are out to do it again with two brand new Sunoco Javelins. Talented young Peter Revson will back up Donohue. All-American driver Dan Gurney heads up the Barracuda team. Experienced veterans and strong young newcomers, here to challenge for the Trans Am crown. John Timanis, tech administrator for the race sanctioning body, the Sports Car Club of America, explains what Trans Am is all about.
Trans Am racing is probably has the best spectator appeal of any type of road racing that the SCCA is involved in, because there's a lot of the spectators can identify with the automobiles. They all look pretty close to what their stock cars look like. The cars are spectacular on the racetrack because they don't go around like they're on a rail. They slide and drift, pick wheels up in the corner. They're really fun to watch.
Laguna Seca is typical of the 11 road circuits of the 1970 season. These are twisting, curving, challenging tracks that sort out the drivers and their machines. The cars are specially prepared stock vehicles with certain sanctioned modifications. The engines are from 2 liters to 305 cubic inches, and the rules state they must start under their own power. The competitors, often 30 or more, line up according to qualifying times. Then thunder on for a running start as the flag drops. Parnelli Jones in his school bus yellow Mustang jumps into the lead. Mark Donohue in an American Motors red, white, and blue Javelin, and George Follmer in another Mustang follow. They dice for 40 laps. Starting far back, threads his way through the pack, only to be nudged out of the race by Sam Posey. Laps over the kinky 1.9-mile track. Jones pushes on, never very far ahead, but Donohue can't close the gap. One hour, 52 minutes, 36 seconds, and Mustang draws the first blood of the new season. It's Mustang first, Javelin second, another Mustang third, and Barracuda fourth. Penske and Donohue aren't used to running second. It's Rufus Parnelli Jones who tastes victory number 1. Later, Roger Penske evaluates their shakedown rides in the 2 new Sunoco Javelins.
Well, I think that the big thing we've got to do, we're happy that the car finished. Peter had an unfortunate situation when Sam Posey bumped him in the back and put him into the guardrail and broke a front brake line. Of course, we're not satisfied with running second, but we're looking forward to better success the next race.
May 9th, Lime Rock, Connecticut. Dan Gurney's Barracuda and Mark Donohue's Javelin sit in the coveted front row. Jones powers through to take an early lead. The Javelin, Barracuda, and Camaro press behind. A spin out, but the leaders roar on. Laps, Peter Revson's engine fails. 4 laps later, Donohue makes his move. But on the next lap, the Mustang passes alone. A blown oil gasket has finished the race for the second Javelin. For the next hour, Parnelli Jones strokes it. He has brake problems, but coasts home for win number 2 ahead of Ed Leslie's Camaro and Sam Posey's Challenger.